那么下面呢，就让我们正式进入到峰会的第一个重磅环节。我们非常荣幸地邀请到了美国前驻华大使 Terry 布兰斯坦德先生，为我们带来题为“全球合作实现 Web 3.0标准化”的开幕致辞，并在问答环节和大家讨论未来10年的中美关系。特里布兰斯坦德从2017年到2020年间任这个美国的驻华大使，他也是美国历史上任职时间最长的一位州长，代表的是爱荷华州。本场演讲的语言为英文，我们的同传团队将为大家提供中文翻译。接下来让我们远程连线一下布兰斯坦德大使。
We are honored to have former Ambassador Terry Branstad with us today. He will deliver an opening remark on global collaboration on standardizing Web3, and it will take a few questions on the U.S.-China relations. Ambassador Branstad is the former U.S. ambassador to China from 2017 to 2020, representing the state of Iowa. He is longest-serving governor in the history of the United States. Good morning, or should I say good night, Ambassador Branstad. Thanks for joining us today. Please feel free to start whenever you are ready.
From 2017 to 2020. Okay, I think I was muted, so I'll start over again by saying thank you to ETH Shanghai for inviting me to speak at this event. I had the honor of being the ambassador to China for 3 years, and during that time I visited Shanghai several times. The American Chamber of Commerce invited me to be the keynote speaker at their appreciation dinner in 2017, 18, and 19. And I also enjoyed the friendliness, the hospitality, and the beauty of Shanghai, which is a great international city. As a transition, I'd like to talk about the important relationship between the United States and China. We're the two biggest economies in the world, and both of our countries are experiencing thriving internet industry, one of the most active areas of technological advancement in both countries. By June of 2021, China's internet users already reached more than 1 billion, while 91% of the US population are using internet today. The emerging technology and changing habits of how people interact in this world are paving the way for a shift in the internet world. And that leads to our main topic today, Web 3.0, a future internet world that is more decentralized, privacy improved, and encouraging for innovation. The U.S. has already been actively observing the iteration of the internet and the blockchain technology behind it. Authorities and lawmakers have brought forward various frameworks in encouraging and regulating this digital innovations. For example, in my home state of Iowa, the legislature passed Senate File 2333, which is the making Iowa a blockchain-friendly state. The bill creates a new article within the Iowa Code, Chapter 554, adding digital assets to the Iowa regulatory framework. Global collaboration to foster 3.0 is critically important. The international community needs to collaborate to foster new technologies. This would be a giant leap for mankind rather than just individuals. Web 3.0 is decentralized, but the community is collaborative. There will be more collaborations between developed and developing countries. 3.0 is a product of globalization and requires cooperation from various countries and markets, which is why we advocate cooperation over competition. There will always be competition in some areas, but there's critical need for collaboration in this emerging new technology. We need to connect with each other. We need to work together, and we're very excited about the potential for international collaboration despite the friction that continues to exist in the world today. Again, I want to say congratulations for putting this great event together, and thank you for giving me this speaking opportunity. I want to congratulate Mass Network for hosting this informative and inspirational summit, and I'd be glad to answer questions.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing, Ambassador Branstad, and what amazing opening remark. We're all very excited that you're here.
Well, I would also mention, you know, I was the governor, American governor that hosted Xi Jinping his first trip to America in 1985. And so I'm proud to say that Xi Jinping looks at me as an old friend because we were treated so well when I went to China in 84, and we went all out to make him feel welcome and appreciated when he visited Iowa. And he's never forgotten that.
Yeah, absolutely. And in Chinese words, you're also an old friend of ours. 你是中国人民的老朋友了。
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, great. And yeah, 感谢大使的精彩致辞。那相信我们在场的很多朋友也非常期待和大使交流。现场大家有任何的问题呢，也欢迎发送到这个 YouTube 或者是微信的直播平台的聊天框中，我们将选取一些问题来。那首先我们在观众中呢有来自 Mass Network 的创始人和 CEO 苏基言严寒先生，首先有请他来向大使提第一个问题。Ambassador Branstad is going to answer a few questions during the Q&A session. Feel free to send your questions and comments in the chat box. First question comes from Suji Yan, the founder and CEO of Mass Network. Suji, yeah, go ahead.
Hello, Ambassador. And
hello,
it's great to hear.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you. It's great to hear a story of Iowa and the Sino-US on the Web 1, Web 2. And also great to hear a story of you hosted Chairman Xi back in 90s. I'm just wondering, as you mentioned, Iowa is a blockchain friendly state, and there's many other blockchain friendly states in the US. We're looking forward to see more Web3 projects and its protocols flourishing in Iowa. I'm just wondering, can you share some insights and understanding about Web3, especially from regulatory perspective? And that'll be really helpful for the founders in the East and also in the West. Yeah.
Well, first, the decentralization nature removes the centralized power of platforms and organizations over individuals and networks. So these networks are free from the control of a single entity. And that means that the companies, rather than the government, are in control of the situation. It casts a huge contrast to the Web 2.0, where your data is in the hands of these tech companies and the risk of being monetized or manipulated without your consent. So Web 3.0 means individuals take back the ownership of their personal data, and tech companies will no longer be able to use them as they wish. Thirdly, the integrity of the data and the entire network will be hugely improved, as data will be stored securely and distributed across many devices. It can be free from data leaks, attacks, tampering, and severe downtime. Furthermore, Web 3.0 creates lower barriers to entry, and applications built on blockchain are accessible to all and free from geo restrictions. This may offer a more promising environment for both small business and developers to concentrate on real innovation.
Great. And thank you, Ambassador Branstad, for the answer. And speaking of, Web 2 and Web 3, recently this Elon Musk's Twitter acquisition's been, a huge news. So we have a question from the audience.
It is a big thing.
Policymaker. Yeah, absolutely.
It's getting a lot of coverage here, and I think it could disrupt the whole situation as far as Twitter is concerned.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So we would love to, get more of your comments and thoughts on, this acquisition move. How do you feel about it as a policymaker, and as an American citizen?
Well, I think one of the big concerns is freedom of speech. And unfortunately, we saw restrictions based on certain political ideology. And Elon Musk said, no more. We want it to be open and free so that anybody that wants to can participate. And we'll see. This is far from a done deal. There's already concern that there's many fake accounts, and he is saying that he doesn't want to pay for fake accounts. He wants real people.
Absolutely.
So I think we can talk more about the collaboration between the China, US, and China, US. So where do you see the US and China can collaborate in the next decade, both the government level and through the business or civil engagement? Yeah.
Well, I was ambassador when we went through the extended negotiations that eventually led to the phase 1 trade agreement. And I want to give a compliment to both Ambassador Lighthizer and also Liu He, who represented China during those extended negotiations. You may know that there were many negotiating sessions in Beijing and Washington, but there was also one of those sessions that was held in Shanghai as well. And it did make some progress in protecting intellectual property rights. And also, of course, being from the state of Iowa, which is a big agriculture producing state, it led to China making record purchases of pork, corn, soybeans, and beef. And so at least in my state, most people think that was a big step forward.
Absolutely. We're really excited to see more collaborations. And also, we have a question more on the kind of regulations front. So in the US, we're 2 years away from the next election. So what do you think, and how do you think the regulatory tailwinds will shift on cryptocurrency and Web3 companies before and after that?
Well, that's a great question. Right now, of course, we have the interim elections coming up this year in November. Yeah. And already the primaries are occurring, so there's a lot of focus on that. And of course, Joe Biden's approval rating has dropped to a all-time low. I think 32%. People are very concerned about inflation, the price of gasoline, and food, and interest rates are going up. And now the stock market has taken a real hit as of late. So it's not a good environment for the incumbent president and his party. And generally, the opposition party gains in a midterm election. But this year, it's looking like that. It could even be a bigger gain for the Republicans than is normal in an off-year election. In terms of the regulatory environment, the Democrats tend to be more oriented towards regulations. Republicans seem to be more interested in free market. So we're obviously there's always going to be some regulation, but I think we want it to be a fair and relatively minimal, and as the more regulation at the local and state level. And I think the relationship between our two countries at the local and state level is better. You have sister states and sister cities, and many people have built long-term friendships.
Yeah, thanks. We also have a question from Linda Wong. She's from the China Biodiversity Conservation and Green Development Foundation. So the question is, how can new tech facilitate environmental protection? Yeah.
Well, I think the new tech companies can play a very key role in helping inform the public about the importance of protecting the environment. And obviously, we still have a long ways to go on that. And we need to be using smart changes and recognizing that everything can't be accomplished overnight. But I'm very honestly encouraged about the role that tech companies can play in raising understanding and awareness and getting a more public support for protecting the environment.
Great. And our next question comes from our host, Afra. Yeah.
Hello, Ambassador. So 2 months ago, I was in Denver, which is claimed to be the very first crypto city or crypto state in the United States. And currently I'm in Miami attending the permissionless conference. So both two states give me this strong vibe of opening up and embracing crypto technology, embracing the crypto culture. So what do you think of the trajectory of your own state in the next 5 years and the United States as a whole? And how do you feel like people escaping from California and all the other traditional, tech savvy states?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. I recently saw the mayor of Miami interviewed, and Miami is making a big push. You mentioned Colorado. Of course, we in Iowa want to be, and my successor as governor, Kim Reynolds, is a very dynamic woman governor, and she's doing a lot of things to try to make Iowa more competitive, reducing the tax burdens, and just I mentioned the legislation that was passed also dealing with the Uniform Commercial Code and making that more tech savvy. So I think it's going to be a race, and that's kind of the way American states work. They try to race to see who can beat each other and who can be the most friendly and successful. So I think that's something you can feel encouraged about.
Absolutely. Thank you for this great answer.
You're welcome.
Great. And we have another question from the audience on collaboration between public sectors and private sectors, namely the cyber communities. So how do you see the dynamics between state governments in the US and Web3 communities? And we have like the DAOs, the decentralized autonomous organizations, even coming up these years. Like how would the dynamics shift between state governments and private sector actors in the Web3 era?
Well, it depends upon the state, but I think a lot of the states are very interested in being very competitive, and they see the future with the tech savvy companies and want to be welcoming and friendly and supportive, and consequently I think that bodes well for the future.
Absolutely. And let's see if we have more questions rolling in. see. Yeah, I think we also have some lot of curiosities on. Could you share a little bit of more anecdotes? You know, when during the first visit to Iowa with President Xi, yeah, some of the interesting memories.
Well, in 1983, my first year as governor, I signed a sister state with Zhang Zhiguang, the governor of Hebei. He invited me to bring a delegation to Hebei in 84. I did. We had a great time, but it was like going back in time. There were no tall buildings in China. Everybody was riding bicycles. We rode an old steam locomotive to Shishajuan, but they met us at the train depot with a band, gave my wife a big bouquet of flowers. We were there for the 35th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic, and so we were very warmly welcomed. Then in the spring of 1985, Xi Jinping led a small delegation of 5 young men, an ag delegation, to Iowa. And because we'd been treated so well, we wanted to go all out. And I appointed an immigrant named Luca Baroni, who had come from Italy, gone to school at Iowa State, to take them all over Iowa. And they went to birthday parties and barbecues. They were on the farm of the president of the corn growers for corn planting. They went on the Mississippi River. And when I came back as governor many years later, in 2011, Xi Jinping had gone from being a county level party secretary to being vice president of the People's Republic of China. And we met in the Great Hall of the People. He spent 45 minutes telling me how much he loved Iowa. He even had his itinerary from the 85 trip, and he mentioned all these people by name: Luca Baroni, Sarah Landy, charge of the sister states, the Dvorak family he stayed with. And so, and he called me an old friend. In fact, all of those people, old friends. That's where I came up with the idea, okay, he's likely to be the next leader of China, and he feels good about Iowans. So I sent him a thank you letter and said, I'd like to host an old friends reunion in Iowa. And that was October. In January, the Chinese Consul General from Chicago said, he called me on the phone. He said, I'm in my car on the way to Des Moines. Vice President Xi wants to come to Iowa. I want to work with you to make the arrangements. So in February of 2012, we hosted the Old Friends Reunion. And Xi Jinping said, now I want to host an Old Friends Reunion in Beijing. And he did that later that spring. So that's how my relationship with Xi Jinping became old friends. And I'm very proud of that. And I'm very appreciative of the Chinese people. I have such a respect for the work ethic, the commitment to education, and the family values of the Chinese people.
Yeah, thanks. We have a question from our audience. You know, like Denver is like a crypto city, but do you think Shanghai, has the opportunity or chance to become a crypto city like Denver?
Well, I think so. Shanghai is already a very dynamic city, economically and culturally. I think it's the biggest seaport in the world. So, yes, I do think if Shanghai decides they want to be a leader in this 3.0, as far as being a crypto capital, I think there's no question that there's the talent and the knowledge in Shanghai to do it.
Great.
Thanks for saying that.
Yeah, thank you, Ambassador Branstad, for the word of encouragement to the developers and people of Shanghai. And once things cool down with the pandemic, we welcome you back to Shanghai.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to when they reduce the quarantine period. But I love Shanghai. Have a lot of wonderful memories of the trips that we made to Shanghai and the wonderful, friendly, hospitality that we received on each and every occasion. So I look forward to coming back.
Yeah, us too. Yeah, hopefully for the next East Shanghai Summit, we'll be able to see each other in person in Shanghai.
In person.
Yeah.
Yes, that would be great.
Absolutely. Yeah, and thank you, Ambassador, for your wonderful sharing and insights. I know the audience are all very excited to hear your sharing. We've also prepared a very Web3, token of gesture and gratitude for you, an Ethereum naming service, an ENS address. It's already registered, using your name. It's called terrybranstad.eth. So that could be your unique, that will be like your unique signature identifier in Web3. So welcome to the world of Web3. And again, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you to Ethereum, for ETH, and for this wonderful opportunity. God bless you all. We'll see you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today. Ambassador Branstad.
Thank you. Thank you.
感谢大使莅临本次峰会，并为我们献上精彩的致辞和问答。